See, it's beautifully brown around the edges, and this part that was originally like a balloon is all sunk down and ready to receive the peanut butter mousse filling. And I'm going to do that in a mixer. You can do it in a hand mixer if you like. I have some peanut butter in the bowl, and I'm adding the cream cheese and the sugar. And now this is going to beat together until it's completely mixed on medium-high speed. Okay, this is beating up really quickly. It only takes 2 or 3 minutes on high speed until the mixture is completely uniform. I'm going to scrape the sides of the bowl to make sure the whole mixture is in before adding the vanilla. The vanilla gives it wonderful, more flavor, plus the vanilla flavor. And then just on low until it mixes in. I have 3/4 cup of heavy cream that's been whipped, and I'm going to use 1/4 cup approximately to lighten up this mixture, because if I tried folding in the entire amount, it's so thick, I would lose a great deal of my airy whipped cream. So by sacrificing 1/4 cup of it, it's going to make the rest of it hold up better. Okay, now I'm going to take out the bowl. Anything that's not mixed in, just use the whisk with my hands to stir it in. You can see how softly whipped it is now that I've added the whipped cream. See, the consistency is really nice and soft with peaks before I add the remaining whipped cream. And now is where I want to be a little more gentle so I can keep the texture. Okay, and the usual folding technique of stirring it around with a spatula, lifting it up over it until it doesn't have to be 100% uniform, but you don't want to see separate big pieces of the whipped cream. Okay, at this point, I always want to take a little taste just to make sure it's all right. That's a lie, but I can never resist. And then it gets filled into your prepared tart crust. And if you, for some reason, if it's puffed up more than you had hoped for, you just don't use all of the filling. It makes a wonderful dessert just by itself. Okay. And now with a little angled spatula, or a rubber spatula, whatever you have handy, just spread it in. And you can see how beautifully even and smooth it is. But because it's a little soft, it's hard to put a chocolate ganache filling on the top of it. So I like to chill it for an hour or even more, just to the point where it's firm enough so that when I pour the cooled ganache over the top, it won't make indentations. I find that bittersweet chocolate is a little bit too much of a contrast with the peanut butter and the sweetness of the rest of the pie. So I'm using part bittersweet chocolate, semi-sweet, and part milk for a really good balance. Now there are many types of wonderful chocolates, but they all have different numbers on with the cocoa butter content, the cocoa powder content. So I suggest that you use your favorite eating chocolate and not go higher than 64% cocoa solids. They all say it now on the wrappers. I'm using today Valrhona, which is one of the top qualities. There are other ones I love too, but it's really a question of what is your favorite. So now this is going to process. And with the motor running, pour the heavy hot cream, the hot and heavy cream, right into it. And then at the end, I put the vanilla in so that it doesn't heat and we don't lose any of its wonderful flavor. Scrape down the sides. You can see there are little bits that look like they're not melted, but they're already softened. Because there's enough heavy cream. The heat of the heavy cream is enough to melt the chocolate completely. You don't want it to be absolutely hot when it goes on, but since this is already nice and chilled, all we have to do, if it's warm, it will still be fine, is to spread it evenly. And it's easier to spread it evenly when it's still very liquid and maybe even slightly warm. Now, if you've made this ahead, you can just stick this in the heat-proof container into the microwave for a few seconds, and it will make it runny again. And stir it until it's completely smooth, and then test the temperature. Yeah, by now it's room temperature. It cools off that quickly. You could dump the whole thing on, but I like to pour it in a circle because that way it doesn't hit. Just in case it were a little warm, I wouldn't want it to hit one spot and have it sink. And I like to cover the entire surface so that it's a real surprise what's underneath. Gently nudge so you're not disturbing the crust, so it still looks, you can see the beautiful golden peanut butter crust. And it's okay if you see a little bit of the peanut butter mousse filling. It's kind of almost like a little temptation there. But if you want to, you can cover it just up to the edge. And at the end, we're going to do a little decoration, very subtle, just in case you'd like to do that. Or you can just leave it smooth. And you could see it's just going to be enough to make a nice layer over the entire tart. Now I'm going to put the very last part right to the edge and either leave it completely plain, or by taking this little spatula, just bring it back and forth in a spiral all around. It's a very subtle little decoration and very easy to do. And the wonderful thing about this ganache, it looks like it's bittersweet, but it isn't. It just blends perfectly with the peanut butter. And if you want to freeze this, you can just put it in the freezer like this, and then after it's frozen solid, cover it with plastic wrap. Unwrap it before you defrost it, and it will be just as shiny, which very rarely happens with a ganache glaze. So I would chill it before eating, although the ganache would be nice and soft right now. But to unmold it, what I said earlier about making sure that the pie crust is not on the outside, if you have a little that's still there, take it off now, because otherwise you may be in trouble when you go to unmold it. Maybe I should have left it so you could see. Just press down, and because I use grease and flour on the pan, look at how it comes off just perfectly. So there you have it, the perfect marriage of chocolate and peanut butter in a peanut butter cookie crust. Here is your peanut butter mousse tart. Enjoy.